Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Target Transfers podcast. Andy and I are thrilled to be joined by Danielle, social media marketing manager at Stahls, again for another episode on how to level up your marketing for your heat printing business. How are you doing, Danielle?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me again. I'm really thrilled to be here.
Oh, of course. Well, we had such a great response from your first episode, Social Media Marketing 101. So we figured it's only fair to everybody that's had their heat printing business for a couple of years or a couple of months even, and they want to start really ramping up their marketing. So we're just going to talk a little bit about that today. So let's just jump straight in, shall we? Danielle and I had a little discussion before this episode of sort of bullet point things that we want to talk about. And the first one that came up, which I think we're both really passionate about when it comes to social media, is engagement as well as just selling to your customers. And I know that we mentioned about talking to people rather than just selling in the first episode, but as you build your business and as you grow a community, I think engagement is so much more important.
I absolutely agree. I think that that is the key to everything, really, especially on social, right? Because it's called social media, right? Instead of just media. So, yes, engaging with the people that are liking your posts and commenting and things like that. I know we mentioned it before, but again, remembering that there's a person behind the phone or behind the computer that is actually uh, interacting with your page and your posts and channels and things like that. It's so important to remember that. And those people are potential customers. Not all of them are customers. Maybe some of your follow you, but really, um, the more you engage and build the know, like, and trust factor is how you'll gain hopefully more customers that way, and more people will see how you treat other people because it's all public. So maybe how some, if there's, God forbid, if there's a problem, but we all know in business, sometimes there's issues and things like that. And how you treat the people who comment or let you know about problems is so important because other people will see that and they'll want to say, people want to know that you'll take care of them too. So,
Sorry, go.
I was going to say I completely agree with you, Danielle. I mean, I think, and that applies to any business because I mean, I went away recently, but one of the first things you do is you look at the reviews of the hotels, and you kind of judge the hotel by how well they deal with those complaints. Because hotel, there could be thousands of rooms, but there's always going to be a problem with that on a pure volume number. But if they deal with it in a reasoned manner, and you're like, okay, I can understand how that could be misinterpreted. And I think it's the same for heat printers, garment decorators, because you're decorating something, and sometimes there'll be mistakes, or sometimes there'll be a perception of mistakes, sometimes it could just be as simple as someone's washed that transfer too early, even though you told them to wait 24 hours, but they did it and it came off because it wasn't ready to be washed. But if you deal with it in a nice, polite manner, they'll be like, okay, it's all part of the personality of the business that way.
Absolutely. Molly, did you have?
Sorry, yeah, no, I was just going to say that I think it's really important when it comes to, like you said, they're not customers now that they might be in the future, and it's touch points between them first seeing your brand or meeting your brand online essentially, and then purchasing, whether that be all on social, whether they end up signing up for emails, or whether they visit your website a few times. All of these things are what leads them to make that purchasing decision. And if the first thing they see on your socials is sale, 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 they're going to think, oh, I'm not as keen on purchasing from this person who looks like they just want to make profit, which is obviously the goal of any business, versus the person who talks to their customers and who shares their journey why, and who has engaging content and who I want to watch and then therefore want to support their business from. So I think that's completely true. And we see it a lot here as well. From engaging posts often perform better than your salesy posts essentially, and then off the back of that you get more sales, which leads me into the next thing I wanted to talk about, which we kind of covered in the last one but not to any level of actual reporting stats. But I think looking at your stats on socials and seeing what's working and what isn't and what people are engaging with is so important, because you could do the prettiest post in the world and it could look lovely, but it might get no interaction, and then something that you whipped up in 5 minutes gets a load of comments and a load of likes, and that's what leads to your sales. So yeah, looking at stats is something I definitely recommend for people.
Yeah, I do too. I feel like this is the perfect time, right? We're coming into a brand new year. It would be the perfect time to really do a social media audit and go through each channel that you're on and find out, like, have a baseline. How many followers do you have? How many likes do you have? How many, that whole thing, like go through each segment and have a baseline, and then have a goal for the following year or even each month. What's your goal for the next month to see, how many people are going to your website or your, shops, your online shops, wherever they are. And also, just figuring out um, your top performing, like you were saying, your top performing posts, figure out which ones are really working and then double down on those, right? So then do more of those, right? If it's working, if it isn't broke, don't fix it. But also know that those sometimes silly engagement means things like that, that your following interacts with. You can strategically use those, right? Because if a lot of people are engaging with those and then the next day you do a post about your business, more people are apt to see it because they've now engaged with something on your page. So it's not just using those funny memes as, I mean, it's entertaining, of course, but there is strategy behind that as well. So just knowing that that works. Then too, I think another thing about the engaging posts is knowing your customer, understanding who they are. And I've said it 100 times, and so have you guys, that knowing your audience is so important, because you'll get more engagement if they know that you know who they are or what they're about or what they like and things like that. So it all goes together.
What advice would you give for people who are trying to tailor their social content towards their target market? I know we've spoken before about how you'd speak to them in terms of the copy you write to go with the images or the videos, and how you speak to people through those captions. But say, for example, somebody has quite a specific niche audience. What are some of the strategies that you would give them to reach their target audience? Would you advise them to maybe look for hashtags or to look at current content and see what's working or something like that? Because some people do have really, really niche audiences, and it can be quite difficult when you're publishing to a world of Instagram, which has billions of users every single day, to really narrow down on who you want to see your posts.
Yeah, everything you said makes sense, right? When you figure out who your niche is, you want to speak in their language. You want to speak in their terms. Like, for instance, we have a customer who's actually an ambassador for us. He has a very specific niche. It's disc golf. Trevor Murphy is his name, from Anheuser Designs. And Anheuser is actually a term used in disc golf. I had no idea. But so he's using terms that are absolutely built around his niche. So that's how he's getting or attracting more people in the disc golf community to his page, because he's talking in their terms and he's doing designs, obviously, for his niche. So people see more of that as well. Plus, the other thing we talked about last time was the hashtags, the local hashtags. Now, granted, you're online and things like that, so you can ship anywhere for the most part, but you still want to, use the hashtags of those locations that you're shipping to. If there's a specific areas that have these, your niche is, popular in, whether it's football or soccer or whatnot. Um, yeah, so that's what I would say about that.
I think as well the great thing about Trevor and his business is he's committed to that niche. I think
Yes,
he's really engaged with it. I mean, it does help that he's genuinely interested in it.
yeah,
But if you've gone for more of a niche product, presumably you've picked it because it is something you're interested in. So I would say as well is just to don't be afraid to be sort of nerdy about that niche, because that's what your customers want. That's why they've come
mhm,
found you, is because they're interested in this case, it be it disc golf or whatever it may be. So actually just embrace that fact. And the sort of deeper you go down the rabbit hole with it, they'll come with you because that's what they're interested in as well. They've probably been searching for a disc golf company for the last 6 to 12 months that does it properly. And they're like, oh, well, finally, someone that shares my interest. So the more you kind of commit to it, the more that they're going to be committed back to you as well.
I have a question. What is disc golf?
Do you know
I have no idea what
do you know
you're
what a
talking
frisbee
about.
is? Do you know what a frisbee?
Yeah.
A frisbee is like
Oh, okay. Yeah.
it's that, and then they have they're like chain goals, basically. They're like chain buckets on poles. So it's like instead of golf with a stick and a ball at the bottom, you're throwing a disc to the bucket, hoping to. It's I could never do it.
Yeah,
I mean,
they
I
do it.
tried.
Very
I never make
specific.
it out
Yeah.
it. But
They're
that's
doing it on a course the size of a golf course as well, I think, a lot of times. So it's not
yeah,
just a case of like throwing it across the park. It's like you could be going 200, 300 yards at a
You have
time.
to throw it that far,
And
or
it,
do you work your way round the
you
course
have to
and you
work.
like pick it up and go again like a golf course?
Yeah, you pick up and go again, but obviously less. You want to do it at least shots as possible,
Oh, okay.
and you've got to
Yeah.
go through trees and all sorts. It's a very.
Oh, that sounds
It's
very
not just
specific.
it's not like I say, it's not just a case of chucking it around the park, and it's
That's where
it's
my
a very.
brain went.
I think it's semi-pro / professional already. I think in the US, isn't it?
God.
yeah, yep. I mean, when I play, it's just like regular golf. I'm always in the woods looking for my disc because it never went the way I wanted it to go.
The wind catches it, it just disappears. Oh, that's brilliant. I understood everything you said about tailoring to your niche, but the actual disc golf thing itself was completely oblivious.
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. Okay, we'll bring it back to marketing. Sorry, I changed the subject there slightly. The next thing I've got to talk about, which I think is actually a really interesting one, if your heat printing business has hit a certain point where you're looking to get new customers, or you're willing to give away a certain part of your profit or your product or your business to get those new customers. So talking about how to get people's email addresses or how to get people to order. So either doing like a certain percentage off your first order, or like getting a free gift or something along those lines. And that on social media can be quite an effective strategy, really. I mean, giveaways is another one that we could mention, but in general, we see quite a lot of like sign up and get 10% off your first order. Obviously, if you're a startup business, that might not necessarily be something that you want to do, but because we're talking about established businesses that have been going for a while and want to look into expanding their customer base, that could be quite an interesting one if they can factor it into their sort of profit margins.
Yes. I would say the most important thing, whether you're starting or continuing and you just haven't started your email list, is to start today. I think Andy would agree with me.
Favorite topic?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I mean, I would say that it can't underestimate just how important email still is. We always, from a target transfers perspective, always still have a great response to our emails. We still get good open rates. Our email platform is still growing and growing and growing because people are interested in getting email about products. I mean, at the moment, it's a perfect example. I can't remember when this is actually coming out, but we're recording on Cyber Monday. So it's
about 2 weeks, I think.
Okay, so in a couple of weeks' time, but this would have been building towards 2023, Black Friday, Christmas, etc. I mean, a lot of those businesses, if you are selling direct to consumer, if you didn't have an email list this week, I mean, you can do some stuff on social, but it's kind of one of the biggest chunks of your marketing. It's just non-existent, basically. So you need to be able to communicate to your customers, either to do promotions, or it could just be as a case of disrupting their workday. It could be that all your customers might be interacting with your product in their lunchtime or their evenings on via social media. But if you're actually selling as a kind of more of a B2B, you need to be able to disrupt them between 9 and 5. And one of the best ways is if you've got their email, is to disrupt them during their workday, especially if it's something that relates to their business, be it fulfillment for clothing. That you're like, okay, yeah, actually, and tell them about your new products you've got, or an offer you might have, or just a nudge for them to, oh yeah, I need to place that order. An email is a fantastic way to do that, and I think we touched upon this in the last episode that Danielle was on, but it's kind of your CRM system. If you're a small company, especially, is that you essentially own those emails, you own that data, and you can take it however the journey of your business goes along.
Yes, absolutely. I lost my thought. Sorry.
It'll come back. It's okay.
It always does. It always does.
And the great thing is that you can, most email platforms give you the first 1,000 to 2,000 customers for free anyway. So it's not like it's an expensive tool to add into your marketing. It's a free tool. Use something like MailChimp. It's really easy to do. Then you can get started straight away, but you've got that bank of people to contact whenever you need to promote something, or even just going back to your point earlier about how we should always be engaging with customers rather than just selling. Actually, it's another way of engaging with people. It could be that you're, for instance, with us, Target Transfers and Stahls, it might be that we've got a new ebook, we've got some education. Here's a new printing method for you to try that will enhance your business. It doesn't have to be a sale. It's free information we're giving away, but there's always going to be some form of help and assistance that you can pass on to your customers, and an email is a great way of getting that in front of them.
It's like 80% of what we do is education based, more than product selling, really, which just sort of backs Andy's point up even more.
Too, if you think about it, we all know that it's so much easier to keep a customer than to grab a new customer, right? So if you have an email list of your customers, then, as Andy said and Molly said, is keeping them along your journey, right? And being able to engage them and let them know, they would be the first to know of new products that they're interested in. That people are, these customers who are people are actually, you already know that they're interested in your business. You don't have to go out and hopefully grab into your journey. They've already purchased from you. So it's that much simpler. I'm not saying it's easy all the time, but it's much more simpler. And when you're engaging, as you said, Andy and Molly, with your education, giving them tips of how to use them in new ways or what, then they're more apt to purchase more of whatever it is. And if it's t-shirts, right, you can give them tips of like, hey, have you thought about a family reunion set of t-shirts for your family, or a bachelorette party's coming, if you have anybody getting married, you've got, we have bachelorette t-shirts, whatnot. So yeah, email's just so important.
It's a great way of segmenting your customers as well, in a way that social media can't do it at times, really, as well.
That's a very good point.
Obviously, the more, depending on what they interact with regards to your existing emails, you can start to understand what they're interested in, and it might only be interested in half of what you're talking about. So only talk to them about half of what you're talking about. They might be, in our instance, we might say someone's only interested in heat transfer vinyl, so let's not bore them with heat transfers, or vice versa. But there's not really a way you can do that with social platforms apart from starting a separate account to talk about it. But that's not the simplest thing to do, and it takes a lot of time, a lot of effort. But with an email, you can be like, okay, that person's interested in that, and I'm only going to email about that. I'm only going to engage with them with what they're interested in.
Right. And you can actually tell when people open the email. When we post on Instagram, who really sees it. We hope it's our customers. We hope it's even our followers, but we don't know for sure. But with your email provider, they'll be able to tell you who opened it. And then the people that didn't open it, you can send it again as a, in case you missed it, here's this thing, or here's this message we have for you. So, yeah, email's so important. over the weekend, it was Thanksgiving last weekend. My brother has his own business, and he's been in business for a pretty long time, and he very, very successful. It's a furniture business. And I asked about his email list, and he blushed and he said, honestly, we haven't done very well with that. We haven't really tried. And I said, oh, we need to talk. We'll have a separate conversation after Thanksgiving.
We'll have dinner and then we'll talk business.
Yes, have some pie and then let's chat. So yeah, it was yeah. So I mean, it's very common to not start your email list, but I implore you, whoever's listening, to start today.
Yeah, I think it's,
if you don't have an email provider right now, like MailChimp we talked about is free. There's a couple others out there, but even if it is just people coming into your shop and you have a piece of paper with join our email list or join our newsletter or something where they're just even handwriting it for now, because that's the other thing. Please don't ever buy lists. You need people to give permission to send to them. It's against the law to not have their permission or subscribe to the email list. You don't ever want to be spam or anything like that. So just know that buying lists is not the right way to go. You want engaged people who want your messages in their inbox.
That leads into what I was going to say. I was just going to mention about how I know we talked about education over selling for emails and for social posts, but providing value to customers, because an email, even though we all get hundreds of emails a day from every business that we've ever wanted 10% off from, it's one of those things where I don't really open many emails unless I think there's something in it for me, essentially. Mm-hmm. And there's so many things that come into my inbox every day that's just, have you thought about buying this? Oh, 10% off this. And it's okay for a while, but you like to think that, like what you said earlier, Danielle, about, oh, have you thought about this instead of this, giving value or giving them ideas. And actually getting an email, even though we all get loads, is quite a personal thing. Like, you don't just give out your email address to a company you don't want to receive information from. So you need to make sure that the information you are selling them is A, they've given you permission to send, but B, will keep them subscribed. Because if you send a few boring emails or a few pushy emails, they can unsubscribe just as quickly, and then that's kind of it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I personally like the ones that communicate like we're talking now, like we're talking with friends, right? I don't necessarily love it when they're like, hey friend, and I've never engaged with them. That turns me off. But if it's with the emails, or I purchase from them quite frequently, that's me. Amazon, no, just kidding. But I like sort of a friendly vibe as opposed to very professional. But I think it depends on the business, right? It depends on what tone of voice you want to use with your customers and what the message you want to give.
That's a good point, actually, because we've got obviously a very wide range of customers and printing businesses here. But some of them are very sort of crafty and more personal with customers, and they sell their own designs. And it's that sort of your typical like Etsy kind of shop, that kind of vibe. Mm-hmm. And then you've got other businesses that are more fulfillment. They do jobs for other businesses. And even the way that you've made me think now, even when I see their social media posts, the way they talk or the way they present what they're sharing is completely different. Like mm-hmm. The fulfillment people will say, oh, great job for such and such using whatever product, or DM for a quote or whatever that is. Then the other side will be, oh, hi friends, look at my new designs, how pretty, blah, blah, blah. They're completely different.
Yeah. Because they know their audience, right?
They do, yeah. Very successful if you do that.
Yeah. And so much easier. So much easier.
It is. And I'm going to contradict myself here. And I know I've literally just said, the more you try and sell to your audience, if anything, the less they want to buy. However, we had a very interesting discussion last week about selling your best sellers when it comes to products, whether it's email, online, website, whatever that is. I think a lot of marketers are kind of afraid to talk about the same thing over and over again, even though it's the literal description of our jobs. But I think some people are scared to talk about their bestsellers in a way, or too frequently as such. But that's definitely something that people should be talking about, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
I think so, but I think it's all part of coming down to one of the things that we always talk about internally is, would this, if someone went onto our account today and they're seeing it for the first time, does this make sense? And that's kind of the same thing, is that someone could be on your page for the first time ever, and so you want to make sure that they are greeted with something that is relevant. And normally your bestsellers are the most relevant product to any of your customers. So it's important to make sure that you talk about your best product, because if you don't ask anyone to buy it, they're never going to buy it.
Mm-hmm. Very, very true. One of the things that we talked about in that discussion, Molly, was the one of our best sellers, which is thermofilm. It's been around for, gosh, I think 40 plus years. And internally, we feel like we talk about it all the time, but we still have customers to this day say, what's thermofilm? So I feel like, as a marketer, but also as a t-shirt business, right? Or even a distributor, anything like that. We feel like we're talking about it so much, but especially on social, we can't guarantee that people are seeing it, right? I mean, like we said, with email, you can see if someone's seeing that message. But on social media, you don't know who's seeing it. We can't always guarantee that someone's online at 3 p.m. on a Tuesday when we've talked about it, right? We hope there are. And even if they're not engaging, we're hoping they're seeing it, but we can't guarantee that. So I wholeheartedly believe in talking consistently about your bestsellers. They're a bestseller for a reason, right? Because everyone loves them. They're kind of evergreen, they're they're not just trendy, they're consistently popular.
I think as well, I mean, at Stahls and Target Trans, we try very hard not to use too many jargony product
Mhm.
names, because we want it to be nice and simple for everyone. But there will always be customers that don't understand what thermofilm or sports film extra is. So it's important to explain it every so often, so that when they do come along, they're like, oh, that makes sense. I understand what you're talking about. But if you just kind of went into sort of next level explaining about thermofilm, they'd be like, this is really confusing. I don't understand.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I actually said to our internal team recently in the Heat Press for Profit group, a lot of people use acronyms, right? That we have hundreds of acronyms because people who use the products all the time, that's what they call it. And most of us know, but new people are like, what is UCM? I don't get it. That's not on the product, that's not on the website. And it's like, oh, that's Ultra Color Max. I said we need to have a glossary term, of terms for people the new people who join the group will see, like they can just go and check out what's UCM, things like that. So it is important to use the names of the products, I guess. But you're right, Andy, explaining what it is. Like, thermofilm would be for football, sports, something, sports that have a contact sports, because they're abrasion resistant, things like that. So
I think as well, bestsellers are a really great way to, not only do you need to talk about them so that new people are aware, like we've just said, but it's also a great way to increase engagement on some of your posts. Like if we share a post about a particular transfer or a particular type of vinyl that we know our audience love, if we ask them a question on who's used this recently, or who's got the new colors of this vinyl, or show us what transfers you've been using recently, or do you prefer screen print or ultra color, people that use them will comment as well. So not only are you explaining it to a new audience and talking about your best sellers, you're boosting your engagement, because your current customers who know and love the product just as much as you do will comment on that because they know it and they love it and they want to be involved in the community. So it's kind of a win-win situation from both sides.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And those customers that are doing that are helping you sell, right? Because it's people proof. because they're already using it and loving it. I love that.
Yeah. Reviews, screenshot, share every single time.
Yeah.
Plus, I think it's worth noting is that people are interacting with your page because they're interested in what you're doing. So they want to talk about your best sellers or what the product that is helping them be successful.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not, they're not going to be, it's not a negative to talk about the best selling products. I mean, it's helpful for us, but in reality, they want to learn more about that product because that's going to only improve them as a business anyway.
Yeah.
Well, and to think of, as we're talking about t-shirt businesses, let's say our customers who are t-shirt businesses, who the end customer, how will it make them successful, right? If your best seller is a great t-shirt with a big smiley face on it, how will that make the end customer, feel or show up in the world, right? If it's, share some happiness in the world, right? Or your friends and family are going to love this, seeing you so happy with this happy face.
There's so many things you could do for that though. Like you could do, say for example, you're one of those sort of Etsy style shops that we mentioned previously, and you've got a new design or you've got a best selling design. You could share a picture of that and say, oh, who's got this jumper, who likes it? And someone might comment, oh yeah, I've got one, love the design. Oh, I have one, best, like most comfortable jumper ever. I've worn mine, it washes really well. That's great. If you're fulfillment and you're selling to businesses, you could post different products that they might not have thought they needed, polos instead of t-shirts, hoodies instead of sweatshirts, that sort of thing. Bundles, even if you're selling multiple things together for different or a discounted price, they're all sort of things that people are commenting, go, oh, such a great deal, I've used all of my products, this is great. All of those things that people who have bought off of you before will just help your business grow further, in my experience anyway.
I would say as well as that trying to put a nice way of putting this, but you can't always work on the assumption that all your customers are super intelligent as well. You should be surprised at the amount of businesses I've spoken to, and they weren't selling something for the reason they weren't featuring the bestseller, maybe because they wanted to talk about something else, and their customers might be like, oh, I didn't realize you sold t-shirts because you've only been talking about jumpers. But unfortunately, that's why you always have to remember to bring it back around, because you will get a question like, maybe you've got you just bought a bag range, so you're only talking about bags, and they just think you're a bag company. Because that's all they see when they go on your platform or on your YouTube channel or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So it's always important to bring it back around to the core business that way.
Yeah, not everyone clicks onto a website straight away, or not everybody clicks on to look at the whole profile, or they just see what's put in front of them essentially, and that's it.
Right. One of the things you mentioned, Molly, was the kitting, or bundling. So you could actually put a best-selling t-shirt and bundle it with something else you sell, and make it into an outfit or some type of gift example for your customers to show. So you're showing your bestseller, but you're also incorporating a few other new things into it. So then they see sort of you're more well-rounded than just t-shirts or just a bag company or something like that, but also giving them an idea of how to use the t-shirt or how to fashion it, as per se. Oh.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great idea. Another thing that came to my mind when you were talking about that as well is using third-party assets to help your business. So for example, if you were going to do a bundle or a new t-shirt design, but you didn't want to waste money on like sampling or something like that, you could use like the mock-ups. Like Canva has mock-ups. You can use is it Ralawise or Bella Canvas has the like t-shirt prints for social images, for like promos, things like that. MailChimp has email templates. There's so many things out there that you can utilize as a business at any stage to sort of save money, efficiency, like you're not wasting money making products that aren't going to sell. If you've come up with a new design and you're not sure how your audience is going to take it, whack it on a template, share it to socials, and see like a mock-up and see what the response is before you print loads, do all the photos, and then don't sell any and have to give them all away.
Yeah, that's a great idea. The another one is Place It. Net. That's a good one too. They have a lot of model shops as well for that. But yes, I absolutely agree with that. I think it's such a good idea to, because then too, you can also mock it up on different things besides t-shirts, right? You could mock it up on a bag from one of the suppliers. You could mock it up on a canvas even, or something of that nature too. So there's a lot of different things you can do, especially like around the holidays is always good too. Maybe something that I've found is quite useful and valuable for people is to maybe do a gift guide, mock up a gift guide for your customers. So, Christmas is a little late for that one this year, but Valentine's Day is coming up. Maybe you have a couple different designs for that, or Mother's Day, or Father's Day, or whatnot. If people aren't sure what they want, or what you sell, you can do an online gift guide, to show ideas of different items that you're selling.
That's a really good idea. I like that one as well. I really like that one. That kind of leads us into another great tip that I want to share with business owners, which we're just talking, like you said, about mocking things up and creating content, is batch creating content and how that can save your business time when you've got to that point where you're printing all day and you need to take some pictures for socials, or you need to jump on stories or write an email and things like that. How helpful batch content creation can be, even if you just put half an hour or 45 minutes to the side once or twice a week and say, I'm going to make a list and film these reels or take these photos in that one time period, how that can be beneficial to business owners that are getting to that next level of printing.
Mm-hmm. I actually know some of our customers who just set up their phone and record whatever they're doing during the day. They put it, if they're heat pressing, they're just recording everything they're doing. And I think that, and then they, so they excuse me, they might have hours of video, they might have an hour, they might have 30 minutes, doesn't matter. But you can, as you know, Molly and Andy as well, that it's so much easier to just videotape everything at once and then take another day or another hour, 15 minutes or whatever it is, to chop up that video into smaller bites. You can make it into reels, you can make it into a little bit longer video, things like that. But instead of trying to do, I'm going to record this video, then I'm going to edit it, then I'm going to caption it, then I'm going to post it, then I'm going to do everything all in once, a whole day a shot, right? So instead, do one thing first, videotape the whole thing. The next day, or when you have time, chop it up into small pieces. The next time, caption those out, add some music, then post. It's, it's so much simpler to do it that way, I believe. Or if you already have a bunch of posts done. So let's say you have all that done, and then now you can schedule out 5, 6, 7, however many you've got, different videos for different days with different captions, things of that, that type of thing.
Yeah, that's something that we put an Instagram box up on our stories today, asking people what they wish they'd known when they started their business, or what they would tell their business younger selves, if that makes sense. But one of them was that they wish they'd have known to just record what they were pressing at the time, because that content is just everything. So that came up in one of the question boxes today. And I think you're right. It's definitely a good idea to, as Danielle says, do everything in one go rather than chopping and changing. So like set your phone up or set your camera up, do all your pressing. Then when you get another half an hour or what have you, sit down and chop those up into different videos. And something I personally find really helpful when I do that for our target social content is to actually over time make a list of certain videos you want to film, even if it's for our customers. It might be that they know they've got a certain order that they can film, because I know not everybody's customers want their products online or want their content to be shared. But if they know they've got a particular customer or a handful of orders that they can film, is to do all of them in one go. or to make a list of like video types they want to film. So, some people do like the transition reels and show 3 different products. Like there's so many different types, but almost make a short summary list of the content you want to create, because you could, if you're filming pressing, it's slightly different. But if you're filming different types of reels and you set your phone up and then you go, right, I'm going to film now. And then you're like, what am I filming? I have absolutely no idea. Like I have no list. I'm not prepared. And that's a time wasting thing in itself. And
Yeah.
the amount of times you're scrolling through Instagram of an evening and you see different reels, different inspirations, and you think, oh, I'll film that. Make a list, write it down, put it in your phone notes. And then when you come to film, you have like a pre-done list of everything that you want to film. Even if you don't get through the whole thing in that 45 minutes or day or whatever you have, you just chip away at it slowly.
Mm-hmm. I think something that's important as well is that if you have a shop, let's say, and you have customers coming in, and it's maybe not too busy where you can't get to them or whatnot, but if you have customers coming in with shirts that you've made, ask them to take their picture, because that's good content, right? It's a customer. You could tag them if they want it, or you can just use the neck down if that's something. If they don't want their face on your socials, that's okay too. But I think what's the saying? Everything is content, right? That's the whole thing on Instagram and TikTok. Everything is content. So
that's an audio as well at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah. So just if you always keep that in your mind, right? Even if you're taking the photo today or the video today, know that you don't have to use it today. You can use it later, but just take the shot. Right.
Yeah.
So
I think it's a good point, and it's something that one of our customers who came in a couple of weeks ago, Printing on Sea, who did the podcast recently, and one of the things that they found, or they were starting to encourage people to take photos with them when they came in to pick up their orders, and what they found was that they kind of almost started to end up as a kind of like a yellow pages or a directory. It's basically a lot of their customers are now starting to get more business because they're seeing them on the Printing on Sea account as like, oh, here's a really great plumber or builder locally. Now people are coming in who's getting work with, actually, yeah, they want to be on their Instagram because they know it's going to help them as well.
Right.
So kind of it's a really great circle of business they've got going on now.
Yeah, and then they'll share it, right? They'll share it onto their pages and whatnot. So yeah, that's great. Love hearing that.
That's kind of like borderline repurposing content, isn't it? When you think about it, if it's going that far between different people. I know that's one of your favorite topics, Danielle, is repurposing content.
It really is. It really is. Why reinvent the wheel? You have all of this content. I think that should be like a billboard or something. I should maybe have that tattooed somewhere, maybe.
A big sign behind you.
I won't have that. I'll just make a t-shirt that says reuse, repurpose, because you've created all this great content, and like I said earlier, you can't guarantee that everyone's going to be online on Tuesday at 3 p.m. to see it. So keep repurposing it. Don't I would not recommend posting like right after the same message all the time, but if you posted at 2 p.m. 2 p.m. on a Tuesday, let's say, then repost it again Saturday at 7 p.m. and see if, what time frame works better, or, hopefully you'll be able to reach a few more people. And then, but don't just do it twice that month. If it's still relevant, post it again in another month, and maybe 3 months from now, or maybe 2 months from now. Just, again, it's good content. Not everyone's going to see it.
Well, I think that it ties everything up a bit as well that we've been saying earlier, is that earlier we talked about understanding what's getting the best engagement. Okay, what is getting the best engagement? That's what you should be repurposing. But I think as well, we're all very aware that we're all paid to be marketers. So we have the advantage for us of working between 9 and 5 at doing marketing. And we know that most people listening don't have that possibility, but everyone has to do marketing, whether they want to or not. If you're a business owner or own a heat printing shop, you have to do it. So finding that hour each week it's not like a nice to have, it's an essential, but a way of making, if you are a bit stuck for ideas as well, or you need to make sure that you're going back to your best sellers, is actually repurposing content ticks every single box because it's going to get engagement, it's going to promote your best product, because a lot of the time the most engaged posts are related to your bestsellers anyway, because that's what people are most interested in. But it's also, it means that you have something to fall back on if you are a bit short of ideas, because you've you only have an hour a week to do it. But an hour a week is not unreasonable to expect you to do that. But repurposing content is a great way to help fill that content calendar for the following week.
Absolutely. And then it goes back to the engaging part, Andy. So when you've repurposed the popular posts, then you have time to actually engage with followers, right? And engage with other, not just on your page. You can go and engage on other people's pages. So that will then give you exposure to other people. So they'll see your names, they'll see your handle on each channel or whatnot. And then the more you engage and build community outside of your own page, the more exposure you're going to get. And it's free exposure. It's just you chatting with people. It's just you being helpful to other people, or laughing, or, having fun and giving value. So that gives you extra time because you've now repurposed something. You're not recreating the wheel. You're just posting something that's popular on your page, and then you're able to go out and get engage other ways.
And I think one other way of looking at it as well is, people obviously always worry a bit about repeating themselves, repurposing content. Is something that to consider is perhaps to pick 5-10 companies that you follow for your own personal benefit and go through and see what have they talked about. And I bet you find that they've talked about their bestsellers and they've repeated themselves. It's like, would you tell McDonald's not to post about cheeseburgers? Do you know what I mean? It's like they're always going they're the best sellers, so they're going to talk about them and talking about food. But that's true of like every single brand that's successful. It's like, would you tell Nike not to talk about trainers?
Right.
That's going on the Instagram. That's a clip right there. We're keeping that. That's a perfect metaphor. I love it.
It's not a bad idea either to put on the video or the photo or whatnot an actual like sticker that says bestseller, because again, that's people proof. People want to buy what other people buy. They don't always want to go outside the box and try something new and they're not really sure. But if everybody loves it by being a bestseller for you, then people will are more apt to try it or buy it because other people have bought it,
Yeah, so it's that confidence thing, isn't it? Like you're reassured that you're buying a quality product or something that other people like, and that you're not going to waste your money on, essentially. Whereas if it's like something that it might be a bit of a cheaper product, or something that you haven't bought before, or something that not many people have bought. Like I always look at reviews when I buy things online, and if there are less than like 5 reviews, I tend to just go somewhere else, because I don't fully trust the reliability of the company or the product. It sounds silly, but it's true.
No, I'm the same way. But something is to be said about those reviews is if you have reviews on your shop or you have reviews on your website, use those as social, right? Have a photo or a video of the product and the reviews that go with it. Because once again, that's people proof. That's how people are going to see, like, oh, that's a popular item and this is what people are saying about it. Oh, I've got to try that. Yeah.
I think as well, I mean, a lot of the people that will be listening will be fulfillment companies. And by actually letting people know what the bestseller is, it's important because the person that's buying your product doesn't know about t-shirts. They have probably been tasked by someone like, okay, we need 50 t-shirts and 50 hoodies and some bags, but they're not going to know the difference between 10 different t-shirts. They might go on your website and be like, I have no idea what I'm looking at. So actually leading them in the right direction, you're helping them, you're adding value. It's like, it's no different to us telling someone which heat transfer to use when, or which heat press to buy at a certain stage of their journey. If you need to to educate people on which t-shirt they might need to. So letting them know it's a bestseller, it's obviously to your advantage, but you are helping them because they will understand your business better, and it's not something that they're likely to understand. They're not going to know the thread count or how heavy it is or what the stitching's like. They need assistance with that.
Yes, I would absolutely agree with that. I think, yep.
Oh, sorry. No, I was going to lead us on to our next point of the episode, and it kind of leads in from what Andy was just saying, actually. But guiding people and giving them information and context, it's similar to we mentioned about storytelling and sort of building your brand and taking your business to another level. And I think giving them the education and being honest with them about products and what they should buy, what they shouldn't buy, telling them what you sell. Obviously there's a line between like being a bit spammy and salesy, but just being educational. They'll trust, like we always say, people buy from people. They can see straight through you if you're not being authentic. And it's one of the easiest things to do is just tell your business's story, essentially. And that's kind of what we're trying to get people to sort of understand at the moment, is that you can take your business so far, but then you almost need to put like a face behind the brand, or give a bit of history as to how your brand got started, why your brand got started, if it's a specific niche, what you're passionate about, even silly things like printers, essentially, all the silly things that we get. I mean, they're not silly, they're quite amusing, but like people find the peels really fascinating. Some people love and hate weeding and the conversations around that. That putting a bit of personality and personal branding behind your business can really help sort of take it to the next level if you're at that stage.
Yes, I absolutely agree with that too. I think even some behind the scenes, you don't have to show them exactly what you're using or things like that. So, in our business, we can't show all of our secrets, right? We can show some sneaks, but not everything. So, there's proprietary information out there, but there is definitely a way to show a behind the scenes, whether it's who's packaging the product. Are you? I love the TikToks and the reels that show the small business person. They're like, let me show you my team, and it's they have a hat on. It's like, I'm the shipping department, I'm the marketing department, I'm the sales department, right? So we're all the same. That I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Continue.
I was just going to say, like, showing a little bit of behind the scenes of how you wrap something, like, the Etsy shops and things like that do a lot of that, where they're showing how something will get to their customer, or, as we said, the peel, right? That's the whole ASMR thing, where it's, it just sounds great. It's kind of relaxing. I don't know. We all love it. Me included. I still love to watch those videos. So, yeah, if, once again, everything is content. Yeah.
How important do you think that talking about your USPs are as a business on your social platforms? So, say for example, you have you could be either end of the spectrum. You could either be selling based on the quality of your products, you could be selling at a competitive price, it could be the specific designs you have, the variety of products you offer. To what extent do you think it's important for businesses to sort of voice those things on their social platforms?
Well, I do think that I think it's important to an extent, but it's really what's important to the customer, or who they're trying to reach, right? So if they're finding in their area that price is an issue, then, or that is sort of a deciding factor, right, in people purchasing it, definitely talk about it. Talk about why it is a little bit higher in price, or a little bit, that goes along with the quality of the product, and it goes along with the design, and it goes along with how support after the sale, things of that nature. I do think that it's important to an extent, but it's really figuring out what's important to their customer, right? The end user. How does that factor in?
Yeah, I think it's always important to remember something that's important to you as a USP might not be important to your customer. They might
Mhm.
just be like, okay, that seems
Yeah.
like a normal thing that your business should be doing.
Yeah, how does that affect
Yeah.
me?
Yeah, exactly. It's
Yeah.
always got to be come back to the why are you talking about it? And it's got to be because the customer might be, if the customer would be interested in that.
Right. So it's what's in it for the customer is really the, you know, as with anything, right? What's in it for, it's not what, you know, for us, right? So us as a brand or big company or us as a small company, it's what's in it for you as my potential customer. Does this affect you? Is this something that you're interested in? Right? It's the whole thing about knowing your audience and who you're targeting and why, you know, why they would be interested in following you or be interested in doing business with you. What's important to them. And that might be a question. You might want to throw that out there. I mean, that's the other thing. Uh, Social media and marketing in general is not always just push marketing. Some of it is learning about your customer because what you think your customer wants may not be what they want at all. So asking the questions, asking open-ended questions and getting responses back and then taking those responses to heart and really analyzing it and figuring out what it is they're looking for will help you so much in your marketing, in business in general, in your designs, in everything. You know?
I think it's something that you guys at Stahls do really well. I've every time I log on to your Facebook or Instagram or something, you're always asking your customers questions and getting to know
Mhm.
them. So even if, like you say, it's good engagement on that post at the time, but it also gives you an insight into who you're talking to, and it's not just your current customers, it's your potential customers, because you don't have to necessarily have bought from you before to comment on that post, and you just get to know everyone so
Mhm.
much better, so you can tailor your content to different people. But also the platforms, like you on Facebook, you'll ask questions and people will comment. You can do that on Instagram, but I don't know
Mhm.
if the square post with text on it would perform as well necessarily on that platform as it would on Facebook. I suppose it just depends what the question is, how it's presented, how it looks, that kind of thing.
Mhm. We do get quite a bit of engagement, especially for as you asked the question today on Instagram about uh, um, what do you wish you knew when you first started your business, basically.
Yes, yeah.
Um, Things like that get great engagement because people who have been in the business for a while want to help others, right? It's always about helping the new people get up and running and started and things like that. But so for our customers, so something that, you know, what do you think some questions could be that our customers could ask the end user?
Was that a question for us?
I think
I was like, oh, is she going to follow up with an answer to that, or are we meant to be answering?
I think you can ask lots of questions around like what do you expect from the product? What are your favorite types of hoodie? Do you like a zip through pull or a pullover hoodie? Just little
Zip
zip
through, Paul. Is
zip
that
yeah,
is that a thing?
a zipped hoodie or a
Brand new
pullover hoodie.
thing.
There we go.
Do you prefer hooded or like crew necks? What do you prefer about what colors do you like to see on garments? There's lots of ways you can engage with it, I think. Just
Mhm.
asking them like, hey, even it's just a case of this or that with two
Yes.
different color options, just to
Mhm.
kind of start the engagement and start to understand how they want to interact with your product, what is pushing their buttons. There's lots of ways but I think it comes back to I can't remember which one you mentioned earlier, but it's you're also trying to build the experience of getting your product as well. So
Mhm.
that's why you could talk about did you like the package that it came in, if it comes in a nice bag or a box or however it arrives at the customer. It could just because opening a box and trying to get them to sort of feel that feeling of getting your product again.
Mhm.
That's actually a good point in terms of getting them to share it on socials. You want to create something that people want to show off on their social media,
Mhm.
whether they just have a personal account or whatever else they're like a business account creator, whatever it is. you want, like, if I receive a really nice package, I'm like, oh, that's photo worthy. I want a picture of that. Whereas if it's just a box, like, not dissing them because I use them a lot and they're fantastic, but no one posts Amazon parcel
Right.
deliveries on their stories. You would if it's like a massive box and it's like, oh, whoopsies, Black Friday. But your generic posts that come every however often you shop, I would never post that on Instagram, but you receive a nicely packaged from a small business that's got, I don't know, tissue paper in it or something nice, you are going to put that on socials and you're going to promote the brand. So not only is it giving that customer an experience and creating future sales with them, it's also boosting your social awareness and engagement and all of that.
Yes, I agree. Some other things you could do too is that if you have, like, let's say you sell performance wear, that's your niche, right? You're selling sporting goods or whatnot. You can ask, are you an adventurer? Are you a sports? Are you team sports? Do you prefer biking or do you prefer bowling? I don't know. But that will help you too in
Yeah,
learning.
it could be like, which number is your lucky number or something like that.
Sure. Or even what type of music do you like? If what do you do on a Sunday afternoon?
My favorite one that I asked you the other week when we had this conversation, and I said to Danielle, what was your best performing post this week? And she went, I asked people what their favorite Thanksgiving food was. It had nothing to do with heat printing, but it was the most successful one.
Yes. I think we got like 100 comments on that.
It's
And
mad,
I
isn't
learned
it?
about some new food that I'm actually going to try. It sounded delicious.
Oh, really? Have you got, give us an example.
Oh, I don't know. Someone said something about cranberry salad, and I had never heard of that before.
Oh,
And
that
it
sounds
had
quite good.
like oranges and pecans and some other things in it that just sounded interesting that I thought, oh, I can try that.
The one I find interesting on our page has nothing to do with food, but sometimes I'll put up a post that says, like, do you prefer printing on t-shirts or sweatshirts? Everyone has a preference for that.
Yeah.
But then the one I find interesting now is sweatshirts v hoodies, because I think hoodies are still popular. They've always been popular and I think they always will be. But we're definitely seeing sweats become more of a trend now. She says wearing a sweatshirt. But I reach for sweats more than I do hoods now because I can't stand having, like, it gets in the way and I don't like it.
Or it pulls back a little bit.
Yeah. But then some people would
Yeah.
never wear a sweatshirt and will only reach for a hoodie. And then it's the whole, like you said, pullover or zip up. There's so many things that even though that's relevant for us as like the supplier, it's still relevant for the end user because it might be, what do you prefer wearing? Zip up or pullover? What should we be producing? What do you want us to print on?
Right. Even colors, right? It's what colors do you prefer? Do you prefer a black hoodie? Do you prefer a white hoodie? Do you prefer a black lettering? Do you prefer white? How about teal? How about yellow? Yeah.
I love white hoodies, but they never stay clean. Never.
I know, right? That's when you have to get the fabric protector or whatever on it. Right?
Yeah.
Scotch guard. Another good one would be like, what are the colors of your schools, your local schools, your high schools and things like that? What are the colors? Because while you may not be doing sports lettering and numbering for them, you could be doing fan wear. So you could actually, figure out what's popular in that as well.
Yeah, that's
Or
a really
even
good idea.
the mascots in your area. What's the mascot? Is it a lion? Is it a tiger? Is it a warrior? Is it a Spartan? Is it all those
We
things.
found quite a lot of people having success doing that for like levers and things, because obviously some schools, they have either black or white or grey hoodies, but the actual school badge on the front or the print on the back or the hoodie colour, they want to match the school. So they've been obviously using the specific Pantones for the screen print transfers to go to the school and be like, look, we can get it this close to matching what your school color is. It's literally identical. I think that's been boosting sales as well. So yeah, as much as favorite colors and brand colors and things like that are important, the leavers season is up and coming. I know we've spoken about it a lot, but that's still something that I think people aren't taking advantage of enough, is the fact that you can Pantone match colors for things like that to increase the chances of you getting orders for potentially like hundreds of hoodies just for 1 year.
Right. Yeah.
Cool. I mean, do you have anything else to add to today's?
Well, yeah, one thing I just wanted to add on the going back to the storytelling part and people buying from people is that we've had the privilege of meeting lots of our customers recently at events that we've been doing in house or externally. And when we get the chance to speak to our customers, or you as listeners, really, is that so many of you have interesting stories about why you started a business, what your niche is, why you're doing what you're doing. But I would say that probably only 10% of you, if I hadn't had that conversation, I would. There's no way I would ever be able to know that, where they're going on your social pages, your websites. Just doesn't exist. So the kind of call to action for 2023 is for all of you, as you kind of start to carve out that hour or more of your week to commit to doing more marketing, is making sure that you are telling your story of your business, because it's important and people will buy into it, especially because nearly all of you've got really interesting stories that your customers will definitely want to hear, even if you think it's silly or trivial or no one wants to hear about it anymore and they're bored of it. Your customers will want to hear about it. So make sure that 2023 is the year of getting out there and storytelling and putting your face in front of the camera, so they can you can be more authentic with your audience and get more engagement from it that way.
I absolutely agree. And I will be the first to say, get your face out in front of people. I am the most camera shy person around, but sometimes you got to bite the bullet and just get it done, right? People want to see you. People see you every day. A camera's no different than someone standing in front of you. So I will absolutely do that too, Andy. Tell your story. Tell your story. Yeah. That's going to be our next T-shirt. Tell your story.
Danielle's got a list at this point.
So, I'm going to be very busy in the next few weeks of making my T-shirts.
I think as well, it's very easy for us to sit here and go, you need to tell your story, you need to film yourself, blah blah blah. But it's not like you're doing it live. It's not like you're doing it in front of an audience. It's just you and a phone, most likely, or a camera or a laptop or whatever you're using. And if it goes horribly wrong, you can delete it and do it again. We had this conversation with our last week's guest, Taffy, who's moving into the videography space for his business. But we were just talking about this exact thing of getting your face out there, telling your brand story, not awareness, it's familiarity with who runs the business and the face behind the camera and all of that. And, we were saying that you can literally film 10 videos and not use all of them, but it's the fact that you've done it, the fact that you've started and taken that first step, and you just get better with every one that you do. So even if, it's just a picture of you at first to introduce yourself, and then you do a little 10-second story or something like that to slowly introduce yourself to it, but there can be benefits in the long run. And if you start now, think where you can be in 6 months' time with your business.
Mm-hmm.
It definitely gets easier doing it. I'd say that
Does it?
neither of us probably expected that we would be doing a video podcast about target transfers a couple of years
about
ago.
T-shirts.
Exactly, but we knew that in the same way that it would be to the benefit of target transfers if we did it and made it easier for heat printing to be more accessible to everyone. It's no reason everyone listening can't do the same for their business as well.
And it's proven very successful so far.
Yes, it is. I will be the first to admit I was terrified the first time because I'm just not, I don't know. I've just never been on camera before like this, but it helps to think that you're, as this is true for me, but if you're doing it by yourself in front of a phone, it helps to think that you're talking to friends. And luckily I am currently talking to friends, so it's great. But if you are just doing it by yourself in front of in front of the camera, it's easy. You're basically talking to yourself, or think of it as you're talking to your friends. And as Molly said, you can edit it. So I'm so glad that we can edit this one too.
I mean, it's a funny one though, because we have these conversations every single week.
Yes.
We're just recording this one, and it's amazing how much just knowing that in your head changes the dynamic of how you present it. It's weird.
Yeah, it is weird. I think sometimes too you get, or I know that I have gotten where it's like, oh, I don't love the sound of my voice, because I don't always hear it, after or while you're talking, you don't realize how your voice sounds, and then you hear it recorded and you're like, oh, but you just get used to it. It's the same, we're just talking to friends. That's it.
I don't listen back to these podcasts. I won't lie. I put them together to go up online, but I don't have to listen to all of it to do it. I put the intro on the beginning, outro on the end, up it goes. Obviously, if there's any like major bits in the middle, which luckily for the 28 or 30 episodes or whatever we're on, have been minimal. We have not had to do many edits. Majority of these are just one single upload. But then when the podcast clips go up, which we don't edit, I hear this like either Andy or myself in the back of the office, and I'm like, oh no.
Oh, you guys make it so easy though. It's such a joy to be here with you.
Thank you. Oh, it's so nice to have you back on. I really hope that this has helped for those of you listening. If you are at that point in your business where you're thinking, I really want to ramp up, I want to do something different, push it a bit more, but I'm a bit stuck. I hope this has helped you to take that next step and to, you know, get out of your social media marketing rut, if you will. If anyone has any further questions for Danielle or for either Andy and I, drop them in the comments below and we will get back to you. Maybe even in another episode, you never know. Now that Danielle's been on camera, she's all for it.
I know. Okay.
She's like, yeah, great, next week. But no, I think that was everything for today. Did anyone else have anything to add before we finish?
No. I
Cool.
don't.
Okay. Brilliant. Well, thank you so much to everyone for watching. Thank you to Danielle again for coming on. We've loved having you. And make sure that you're liking and subscribing to the Target Transfers podcast. Make sure that you're going follow Stahls on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, all of the platforms. We'll put all of the links down below. I think it will really benefit all of our UK customers to follow Stahls in the US purely for sort of education and inspiration, all of that. And until then, we'll be back next Thursday with another episode.